and Higher Education, Saturday, April 3rd, 2021.
Yang terhormat, Miss Olivia Leslie, selaku Kedutaan Besar Republik Irlandia di Indonesia, Mr. Jack Fernandez, selaku Pejabat Kedutaan Republik Irlandia di Indonesia, Profesor Dr. Suharyadi MS, selaku Rektor Universitas Dian Nusantara, Insinyur Muhammad Hasanuddin Thoyib SEMM, selaku Wakil Rektor 3 Universitas Dian Nusantara, Bapak Todo Sibuya, SPDM HUM, selaku Ketua Program Studi Sastra Inggris Universitas Dian Nusantara, serta yang kami hormati Bapak Ibu, Prodi, Sekprodi, dan Bapak Ibu dosen, serta seluruh peserta yang tidak dapat saya sebutkan satu persatu.
The Honorable Her Excellency Olivia Leslie as Ambassador of Republic Ireland for Indonesia, Mr. Jack Fernandez as Consular Officer of the Embassy of Republic Ireland for Indonesia, Professor Dr. Suharyadi MS as Director of Dian Nusantara University, Insinyur Muhammad Hasanuddin Thoyib SEMM as the Third Vice Rector of Dian Nusantara University, Mr. Todo Sibuya, SPD MHUM, as Head of Department of English Literature of Dian Nusantara University, and also to all Honorable Head of Undergraduate Programs of Dian Nusantara University, all lecturers, and all webinar participants that I cannot mention one by one.
Kami mengucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh narasumber yang telah bersedia meluangkan waktunya untuk berbagi pengetahuan kepada seluruh mahasiswa Universitas Dian Nusantara, serta saya ucapkan terima kasih pula kepada seluruh peserta yang telah bersedia mengikuti kegiatan rutin kami, yaitu ngobrol bareng online maupun webinar. Semoga bersama-sama kita dapat selalu mengambil pelajaran dari setiap kegiatan yang diselenggarakan oleh Universitas Dian Nusantara.
We would like to thank the speakers who have been willing to take the time to share their knowledge with all the Nusantara University students, and I would like to thank all participants who have been willing to follow our routine activities, namely Ngobrol Bareng Online. Hopefully, together we can always take useful lessons from every webinar activity that has been held.
Selanjutnya, menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya dilanjutkan dengan Mars Universitas Dian Nusantara. Hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri.
As the first agenda of today's event is to sing the national anthem of Indonesia Raya, followed by Dian Nusantara University's Mars and Hymn. Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly invite you to stand. Attendees are welcome to sit.
Selanjutnya, sambutan Wakil Rektor 3 Universitas Dian Nusantara kepada Bapak Insinyur Muhammad Hasanuddin Thoyib SEMM kami persilahkan.
Next, we are going to listen to the welcoming speech delivered by the Vice Rector of Dian Nusantara University, Bapak Insinyur Muhammad Hasanuddin Thoyib SEMM. The time is yours.
A'udzubillahiminasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera buat kita semuanya. High Excellency Olivia Leslie, the Ambassador of Republic of Ireland for Indonesia, Mr. Jack Fernandez as the Consular Officer of the Ireland Embassy for Indonesia, Profesor Dr. Suharyadi selaku Rektor Universitas Dian Nusantara, Bapak Tondo Sibuya selaku Ketua Penyelenggara acara seminar pada pagi hari ini. Pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala atas pertemuan kita pada pagi hari ini, di mana hanya atas izin dan rahmatnya jualah kita telah dapat bersama-sama pada pagi hari ini di dalam rangka kita melaksanakan webinar, yaitu merupakan kerjasama antara Universitas Dian Nusantara dengan Kedutaan Republik Irlandia, yang pada pagi hari ini telah dihadiri oleh High Excellency Olivia Leslie as the Ambassador of Republic of Ireland for Indonesia, and also Mr. Jack Fernandez as the Consular Officer of the Ireland Embassy for Indonesia. Pada kesempatan ini kami berharap sekali kepada seluruh mahasiswa dan mahasiswi Undira serta para hadirin yang berkenan menghadiri webinar ini. Mudah-mudahan melalui webinar yang kita laksanakan pada pagi hari ini kita dapat mempererat tali silaturahim antara kedua bangsa, khususnya antara Undira dengan Kedutaan Irlandia yang berada di Indonesia. Terutama pada pagi hari ini, sebagaimana yang telah kita ketahui dan kita baca bahwa paling sedikit ada 4 C yang bisa kita pelajari dari Ibu Olivia Leslie dan Pak Jack Fernandez pada pagi hari ini dari apa yang kita kenal terhadap Irlandia. Di mana selama ini kita mengenal Irlandia yang utamanya adalah castle, bahwa banyak sekali peninggalan istana-istana yang luar biasa yang berada di Irlandia yang bisa menjadi objek wisata dunia ini. Dan kemudian kita mengenal pula si yang kedua pada Kedutaan Irlandia ini adalah berbicara mengenai coast and countryside daripada Irlandia yang luar biasa. Dan kemudian kita bisa mendapati si yang ketiga pada Irlandia ini ketika kita bisa mendengar nanti lebih seksama mengenai bagaimana peninggalan yang luar biasa, semeteri atau pemakaman yang luar biasa. Dan kemudian kita bisa mendapat juga yang luar biasa adalah musical culture. Sehingga paling tidak ada 4 C yang kita bisa dapati mudah-mudahan di dalam webinar kita pada pagi hari ini. Dan tentunya kepada seluruh panitia kami sampaikan terima kasih terutama kepada Pak Tondo Sibuya yang telah menyelenggarakan acara ini dengan sebaik-baiknya, dan terima kasih juga kepada Pak Rektor yang berkenan hadir pada pagi hari ini untuk membuka secara resmi dengan menyampaikan sambutannya mengawali acara diskusi dalam webinar kita pada pagi hari ini. Demikian yang dapat kami sampaikan, semoga webinar yang kita selenggarakan pada pagi hari ini menjadi webinar yang bermakna dan bermanfaat bagi kita semuanya. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bapak Hasan. Mengawali acara pada hari ini, demi kelancaran acara hingga selesai, marilah bersama-sama kita memanjatkan doa demi kelancaran acara kepada Bapak Insinyur Muhammad Hasanuddin Thoyib SEMM, kami persilahkan.
To start the event of this morning today, let us pray together for the success of the event. We invite Mr. Insinyur Muhammad Hasanuddin Thoyib SEMM to pray with us.
Oke, terima kasih Skar. Dan terima kasih kepada Irma Rahmawati. Baiklah, bersama-sama pada pagi hari ini kita memohon kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala semoga Allah memberikan kelancaran, kemudahan di dalam penyelenggaraan webinar ini. Semoga apa yang kita bicarakan pada pagi hari ini memberikan manfaat dan memberikan keberkahan bagi kita semuanya, terutama kepada mahasiswa dan mahasiswi Undira. Semoga apa-apa yang kita dapatkan pada pagi hari ini menjadi penambah untuk memperluas pengetahuan dan pengalaman kita semuanya. Dan mudah-mudahan kita juga nanti pada waktunya diberikan kesempatan untuk bisa berkunjung ke Irlandia untuk mengenal lebih jauh Irlandia dengan mendatangi secara langsung Irlandia. Dan untuk itu sama-sama bagi yang beragama Islam kita membaca Al-Fatihah. Ya, kan, ya. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baik, selanjutnya sambutan Rektor Universitas Dian Nusantara sekaligus membuka acara ngobrol bareng online pada hari ini kepada Profesor Suharyadi MS, kami persilahkan.
The next agenda of the opening speech from the Rector of Dian Nusantara University, Professor Suharyadi MS. The time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, dan salam kebajikan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a glorious moment to extend my warm wishes to all of you on behalf of our university, Universitas Dian Nusantara. I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to the Embassy of the Republic of Ireland for accepting the invitation to our talk show today, especially to our guest speakers, Her Excellency Olivia Leslie, as the Ambassador of Republic of Ireland, as well as Mr. Jack Fernandez, as the Consular Officer of Republic of Ireland. It is an honor that both of you are able to join us in the talk show today. Although the two countries are very far apart, the diplomatic relationship between Indonesia and Ireland has been going on since 1984. It's around 37 years. The two countries have long been involved in the export-import trade, ranging from food and beverage product, garment, textile, fertilizer, medicine, to ship transportation. In the field of ICT, information, communication, and technology, agriculture, and renewable energy, research collaboration were also carried out between Indonesia and Ireland in 2018. In this collaboration, there was an exchange of academic staff between the two countries, increasing cooperation in the scholarship program. We also developed bilateral program between educational institutions, creating new innovation and sharing best practice between Indonesia and Ireland. The NCH Nation Concert Hall in Ireland also regularly holds gamelan classes and also Indonesian exhibitions. Despite all of this collaboration, there are still many opportunities for cooperation between Ireland and Indonesia in various sectors that can be developed in the future. Lastly, through the talk show, I hope that we can all gain a lot of insight based on the relationship between the Republic of Indonesia and the Republic of Ireland. Thank you. I hope today's talk show go on smoothly and reach our knowledge, especially for all of the students here. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Profesor Suharyadi atas sambutannya. Selanjutnya, tibalah kita semua pada sesi utama pada ngobrol bareng online hari ini, yaitu penyampaian materi oleh narasumber, serta kami turut mengundang Bapak Todo Sibueya, SPDM HUM, yang bertindak sebagai moderator. Kepada Bapak Todo Sibueya, kami persilahkan memandu berjalannya sesi penyampaian materi.
We all now arrived at the main session of Ngobrol Bareng Online today, which is the talk show. We invite Mr. Todo Sibueya, SPDM HUM, who will be the moderator of our event today, to start the session.
Terima kasih banyak kepada Ibu Sekar dan Ibu Irma untuk introduction-nya. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the main event of our program. And today we are going to watch and listen to the presentation from Madam Ambassador Olivia Leslie and Mr. Jack Fernandez. So thank you, Ms. Irma and Ms. Sekar for introducing me. For those who haven't known me, let me introduce myself. I'm Todo Sibueya, and I'm the head of English Literature Department at Universitas Nusantara. And for today's NDO, I act as a moderator of this event. So on the behalf of Undira's faculties, once again, I welcome Her Excellency Olivia Leslie, Madam Ambassador of Ireland, and Mr. Jack Fernandez. I'm grateful that we can hold this collaborative event today via Zoom. And because of this online video conference, we enable more people outside Undira to attend this talk show. So the theme of our talk show today is Introduction to the Republic of Ireland, and Madam Ambassador and also Mr. Jack Fernandez have prepared presentation that will give us knowledge and insights about Ireland. So in the next 20 minutes, we will learn more about Ireland in terms of society, business, industry, and higher education. Many of our students here are more familiar with famous influential figures from Ireland, like U2 and then Westlife, but not all of them know that they all come from Ireland. They think Pierce Brosnan is Hollywood actor, American, but actually he is not American. He is Hollywood actor, but he is an Irish, just like Liam Neeson. So I think we can start the presentation. Madam Ambassador, I invite you to deliver your presentation.
Thank you very much, Pak Todo. And selamat pagi, everyone. Good morning from the Embassy of Ireland. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. I want to thank the University of Nusantara for inviting myself and my colleague Jack to speak to you about our country, which is, as the rector said, very, very far away. I wish to thank the rector and the vice rector and Pak Todo as well for organizing today and for giving us the opportunity to meet so many of your students virtually. It's really a pleasure for us, and I hope that today's presentation will give you some insight into Ireland and to our relationship here in Indonesia. I think it's very difficult to explain all of Ireland within my presentation, so please forgive me. We're going to touch on a number of different points about Ireland, a little bit of culture, a little bit of politics, a little bit of geography maybe. And in this period of time, we won't go into anything in too much depth, but I hope to give you a good picture of my country. And afterwards, my colleague Jack will speak to you very specifically about education as well. So without further ado, and with thanks to the Rector and Vice Rector again, I'm going to share a presentation. There are a couple of videos in this presentation short, you will be pleased to hear. So I hope very much that my sharing process will work here. So if you give me 1 second, I will just get the presentation up for you. And let's see. Now, Okay, I hope everyone can see the presentation. Please don't hesitate to jump in and interrupt me if there's any technical problems. So, as I said, we're from the Embassy of Ireland. The embassy has been in Indonesia for, at this point, let me think, 7 years. Although we have had diplomatic relationships with Indonesia for the last 37 years, as the rector said, we only opened an embassy here 7 years ago, which has really helped us to develop our relationship with Indonesia. So what does the embassy do here? I think that's an important place to start. In these pictures, you will see Monument Nasional, Monas, and below the monkey forest in Ubud in Bali turned green. And this happened on the 17th of March last, which is St. Patrick's Day, Hari Nasional, Irlandia. And we did this to celebrate the relationship between Ireland and Indonesia. And to show, I suppose, to showcase the depth of the work that we do. And what the embassy does here is develop people-to-people relationships in culture, in education. So, for example, today's activity is about developing relationships, about showcasing Ireland to Indonesia. We also work, as was referred to by the rector as well, on issues relating to trade, so helping Irish businesses and helping Indonesian businesses grow the trading relationship in all the areas that were mentioned, in food and beverage, in technology, in finance. In all of these areas, we have a very strong and growing trade relationship. We also look after our Irish citizens here. There aren't so many. There are not that many Indonesians in Ireland either, a couple of hundred, and there are probably a few hundred Irish people in Indonesia as well, living everywhere from Papua to Bali to Sumatra and here in Jakarta. So we look after our citizens. And finally, we work together with Indonesia on political issues as well, because we share an awful lot of political objectives. Indonesia is, of course, Southeast Asia's largest democracy. We are believers together in the international multilateral system. So these are some of the areas on which the embassy works. Moving on then, Patoto mentioned some of the things that people might recognize about Ireland. So here's a question for you. I think a lot of people in the audience here today would recognize some of these I suppose, culturally significant things about Ireland. And up in the top right there, we have Westlife, we have the Coors, who are very popular here. We have Conor McGregor, that some of you might know as well. And in the bottom right-hand corner, a beautiful green field and a leprechaun on the other side. So when we ask Indonesians, what do you think of when you think of Ireland? Often these are the things that they might recognize, or Guinness, for example, which is a famous Irish drink. Some in more recent years, Indonesians might say, well, we know Game of Thrones was filmed in Ireland and Vikings is filmed in Ireland. And of course, perhaps not so many people know, but do now that Liam Neeson and Pierce Brosnan are also Irish as well. So these are some of the most commonly recognized Irish things in Indonesia. I wanted to say as well that in recent years, a lot of Indonesians have gone to Ireland for tourism. And this is something that we're delighted about because, of course, about 30,000 Irish people before the pandemic came to Indonesia every year for tourism to experience the sort of, outstanding natural beauty you have here in Indonesia, which is truly a wonderful and beautiful and varied country. And in the same way, more Indonesians are now traveling to Ireland, or were before the pandemic, and we hope we are hopeful that this will continue again. And one thing that Ireland is renowned for is its natural beauty. And with that, I'm going to play you a very short video showcasing some of Ireland's natural beauty. I hope it works. If it doesn't, we'll just pause it and move on. So we can start that now.
So beautiful.
So some of these places are This is near my hometown here.
That's breathtaking scenery.
Hope to go there very soon.
Oh,
Wow.
I'm sorry that there's no audio involved. Unfortunately, it's playing at this end, but not working at your end. But I can give you some descriptions of some of these areas, which is mostly the west coast of Ireland. There we go. So those are some of the rather lovely parts of Ireland. I've stopped the video because there's no audio. So I hope you can hear me now again. So those are just some quick clips of what parts of Ireland look like and what some Indonesian tourists have enjoyed over the last few years, and I hope will come to enjoy again once the pandemic is over. So moving on, a little bit of geography, if that's okay with all of you. I wanted to put Ireland here for scale. So Ireland is the small green island you can see there, and it fits almost perfectly between the coast of Java and Kalimantan. So that will tell you how small Ireland is in comparison to Indonesia. My favorite fact about Indonesia is that you can fly from to fly from Aceh to Jayapura takes the same time to fly from the capital of Ireland, Dublin, to Tehran in Iran. So it just goes to show that Ireland is obviously much smaller than Indonesia, and while we are an island state as well, comparatively we're in a different situation. So next up, I wanted to give the audience some quick facts about Ireland. Our population is about 5 million people. That's our and you can see where we are there. We're a small country on the westernmost edge of Europe, so there is very little between us and Boston in the US. So we have an Atlantic climate as well. So unlike Indonesia, we have 4 distinct seasons in every year. It rained an awful lot in Jakarta last night. I can tell you this is very familiar to Irish people because we also have a lot of rain. We speak English generally as our first language. The majority of people speak English as their first language, but our national language is Irish. And all of us are also educated in Irish at school, so we know the language quite well. And it is a matter of some pride to us to have our own national language as well. We've been an independent country since the 1920s. So like Indonesia, we are in the generation of 20th century independent countries. So we share that in common as well. We use the euro as our currency, which is very helpful because it means that when I go from Dublin to Paris or to Madrid or to the Netherlands for a weekend break, the currency is the same. So for all of you here in ASEAN, the development of a common currency was one of the most important factors in the development of the European Union, of which Ireland is a member, and I can thoroughly recommend it. And the final thing I wanted to say on our small kind of fact file here is that Ireland is one of the world's most globalized countries. And what does that mean? That means that we have an awful lot of our citizens living abroad. For example, there are 5,000 Irish people in Hong Kong. We have an awful lot of foreign people living in Ireland as well. So that means that we have a high turnover. I think it comes up in a later slide. I think possibly in our next slide. Yes, that's correct. 13% of the people who live in Ireland are non-Irish. And we are very proud of this sort of multicultural net immigration to our country, which is helping us build stronger society, stronger culture, and stronger economy as well. So here we just have some statistics about what Ireland is like. Our population of our capital city is nearly 1/3 of our entire population. So like Java, Dublin dominates Ireland, and like Java dominates Indonesia by population, obviously on a much smaller scale. So as you can see from this as well, Irish people tend to go abroad and come back and live abroad, very much like the Indonesian diaspora. Ireland has a large diaspora abroad. So as you can see, about 30,000 came back to live in Ireland and about 30,000 left. So we have a constant in and out of people in the same way as you have here in Indonesia, with obviously on a bigger scale, but you have a very strong diaspora abroad, notably of course in Malaysia. We have a large diaspora in the United Kingdom, in Britain, and the neighbouring island, so to speak. So just moving on here, very quickly, just some thoughts on the Irish economy. In case anyone will have questions about this afterwards, I'd be happy to talk about them. Like every economy, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on how we are performing, and also on our public finances. Just like Indonesia, we've had to borrow money. We've gone to the international markets. We are part of the EU's recovery plan, as well as an EU member. However, we were very lucky because our economy was in a strong position from 2019, marking growth at over 5%, not unlike Indonesia. And this has meant that the shock of the pandemic has been less difficult for Ireland than perhaps it has been for some other countries. Nonetheless, we don't expect GDP growth for 2021 of more than 2%, which obviously presents a lot of difficulties for us as a country as we try to pay our bills, just as it does here in Indonesia. However, there are some positives. Vaccine rollout in Ireland is not as fast as it is in the US, but it is quite good, and we have 10% of people will have had their first dose of a vaccine, and 5% will have had their second dose of a vaccine. So you have to remember that sometimes, I know Indonesia is doing 500,000 vaccines a day. Ireland is a much smaller country, so we haven't done quite the number as you would have done here in Indonesia. And I wish Indonesia the best of luck with the rest of the vaccination program. Next up, some of you will be aware that the United Kingdom, which is our neighbouring country and with whom we share an island. So for those of you who are not aware, the island of Ireland is divided currently. I am from Ireland, and there is also Northern Ireland, a small area to the northeast, which is still part of the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom has now left the European Union. And this has had quite a significant impact on economies across the EU, and of course on the UK's economy as well. However, we expect that the trade and cooperation agreement that the EU, of which we are part, has now negotiated with the UK will soften the impact of Brexit. And just finally, what does all this mean for our relationship with Indonesia? Well, we do an awful lot of trade with Indonesia. And in fact, our trade has increased during the pandemic. Medical equipment coming from Ireland here, obviously food and goods like that, etc., coming out. So we are happy to see that we're continuing to grow the economic relationship between Ireland and Indonesia, despite the very challenging times that we find ourselves in currently. Okay, I have one slide here. I'm not going to spend long on it because it's a short enough, it's from 2020, and really it's about how Ireland earns and spends its money. So as you can see here, some of the things I thought were quite interesting were that people spend 6.2% of their income. There's been an increase of 6.2% of income on clothing and footwear. An awful lot of that comes from Indonesia. So that's an interesting point for you guys to think about, that more clothes and shoes produced here in Indonesia are being bought in Ireland, which is a positive, and is helping economies in Ireland, shops who sell the things, and also the manufacturers here. As you can see from here as well, there's about 120 billion of goods and exports, which is quite significant for a small country, and then about 75 billion of services exports. Okay, so I'm just going to move on from there. If there are questions about the economy, I'm very happy to answer them afterwards. As I mentioned before, Ireland's a member of the European Union. I know Indonesia is an ASEAN member, so you will appreciate the importance of membership of regional organizations. We are fully committed EU members with almost the entire population, about 85% of Irish people feeling that they are both Irish and European, and that the free movement of people, goods and services is the most positive result of the EU. So if I wish, I can go and live in France or Spain or Germany, and I can work there, and I can trade with those places without tariffs. And we also believe that the European Union helps us as a smaller country amplify our voice. So, for example, on issues related to conflict, to migration, to climate change, when we speak together with our 26 member state colleagues, we are much stronger, and that we can sit at the international table as a bloc of 500 million people, just as ASEAN can sit at the table as a bloc of 600 million people. So, as I said, we are very proud EU members, and we feel that being part of the European Union has helped us develop our society, our economy, and has been the cornerstone of social progress in Ireland over the last generation. So that's one political element of how we work. The next political element of how we work is our membership of the United Nations Security Council. So Ireland was voted onto the United Nations Security Council for the period of 2021 to 2022. Those of you who are students of politics and international relations may know, of course, that Indonesia was a member of the United Nations Security Council from 2018 to 2020. So we basically took over where Indonesia left off. We have an awful lot in common with Indonesia. We believe in the multilateral system, we believe in peacekeeping, and we believe that the UN must be at the heart of all foreign policy, and that the promotion of rules-based international order is essential for small states to thrive and prosper. And we have started on the UN Security Council now. We are now 4 months into our tenure there. It remains a difficult international setting, as you are all aware. There is instability and conflict across the world, and we hope as Ireland to be able to contribute to mitigating some of this and to putting in place solutions to allow people to move from conflict and the impacts of conflict generally on women, on children, on the poorest, etc. So we hope that our term on the Security Council will allow us to contribute on the global stage, just as it allowed Indonesia to contribute on the global stage. Now, I had another short video here. I'm going to press play on it because I'm going to not play it because I believe there's issues with the audio. But this little bird here is the Irish symbol of our Security Council tenure, and essentially it's this is just a short video outlining our commitment to peacekeeping. As I said, I don't think we will we will look at it now because of audio issues, but Ireland has had peacekeepers in the field with the UN for over 50 years. We have a continuous record of unbroken service. We serve alongside Indonesian peacekeepers as well in Lebanon, in UNIFIL, and in Africa, in MINUSCO. So Indonesian and Irish soldiers serve together to bring peace and security around the world. And this is a key part of our political cooperation. Moving on, I wanted to, slightly less seriously, I suppose, than the UN, we have a picture of a beautiful Irish cow. Ireland is resolutely an agricultural country, and I think that despite the fact that we have many, many tech companies, that we have a huge financial services sector, it's always important to note, and you will have seen some pictures of green fields there earlier on, that Ireland's an agricultural country and 2/3 of the land is used for farming. We have 137,500 farms on the island, and many of them are quite small, just like many Indonesian farms are quite small, around 35 hectares. We are a very significant food exporter. You will find Irish products in 180 markets worldwide. That includes here in Indonesia. We export quite a lot of milk powder here and dairy. And as a country, we produce 5 times more food than we need. And that food sustainability is a hallmark of Ireland, and it is an expertise that we share around the world with other countries and that we are interested in engaging with Indonesia on. Jack will be mentioning some of the educational opportunities in Ireland in his presentation in a few minutes' time. However, interesting to note that Ireland scores extremely well in international rankings on issues related to agricultural science and agricultural research. It's an area where we are very, very strong. Now, moving on, and just as I'm going to wrap up shortly because I've been talking for a long time, I wanted to just say that it is the Irish government's priority to expand our influence abroad. So a couple of years ago, something called Global Ireland was launched, and it's the government's strategy, I suppose, to broaden Ireland's global engagement. And politically, that means being very engaged as a European Union member and currently as a member of the United Nations Security Council. It means engaging with our diaspora abroad, the Irish people who are working hard in countries all over the world, bringing our culture and our heritage to different countries. And it also means working to promote our culture and our tourism. And I'm very sorry that at the moment people cannot travel to Ireland and people cannot travel to Indonesia, but I do think tourism will recover, and I consider it also a very important part of my job to promote culture. That includes music, that includes literature, as Patoda will know. But on the culture side, I wanted to mention that there's a wonderful Indonesian musician called Rivelino Ismaya. He has a band called Wafton, and they play fantastic Irish music right here in Jakarta. And I'm looking forward to the time when we can all go and enjoy that music in person as well. Now, at this point, I'm going to wrap up. I think this was a very speedy tour of Ireland, and I really hope that it gave you some interest in our country, and Jack will speak to you in a minute about the third level education system there. Just a map here of some of our universities, world-class universities, but I will leave education to the next presenter. But with that, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for your time this morning. It's been really a pleasure to speak to you. And I hope I have stopped sharing my screen there and we can move on to the next presenter. And I'm open for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have learned a lot in such a short time about Ireland. So Ireland is not just about the cranberries, Saoirse Ronan, but it is also famous for agriculture technology, food technology, and it has many wonderful universities with great academic background. One that I always remember is Trinity College. I had a friend who once told me a story about her experience studying at Trinity College. Well, Madam Ambassador, I think I want to ask you a question about the famous people, influential people coming from Ireland. We have so many famous, influential people from the field of arts and humanities, like actors, singers. I wonder, is there any particular emphasis from Ireland government to put, a kind of special emphasis on the education of arts and humanities, because so many influential people are in those fields?
Yes, this is a good question. I'm sure that many Irish people would say, oh, we're naturally very artistic or naturally very talented. But no, yes, the government does put quite a lot of emphasis on music for young people, on literature in particular, as well as on other visual arts. And that's something that's growing, the visual arts. But Ireland, we're extremely lucky that we have different ambassadors who go out into the world for us as artists. We also have a very famous, very Nobel Prize winners for literature, such as Seamus Heaney, the poet, W.B. Yeats, James Joyce, of course, who's one of the world's most famous, was one of the world's most famous writers. On the music side, I think it really is that there are many traditions in the countryside, in the west of Ireland, around traditional music. I've had the pleasure in Indonesia of traveling all over the country. And for example, I was in Ambon a couple of years ago, and they're famous for being very musical in in Ambon and Maluku, etc. And there are parts of Ireland like that as well. And it's a matter of great pleasure to us that we have a gamelan orchestra in Ireland, as referred to in one of the opening speeches, and that we have a wonderful Indonesian uillean pipes player here as well. So yes, the government puts a huge focus on it for young people, but we also put a big focus on supporting artists, adult artists. So, you know, not everyone is Pierce Brosnan or the Cranberries and very successful and makes a lot of money, but we have put in place a lot of measures to support artists, including during the pandemic when their incomes fell. So yes, a central part of government policy.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Jadi kepada hadirin, pertanyaan kita sudah terjawab mengapa banyak artis, musisi, aktor datang dari Irlandia. Rupanya seperti yang dijelaskan oleh Ibu Duta Besar, pemerintah Irlandia memang memberikan penekanan khusus pada pendidikan seni, budaya, teater, sehingga ini yang membuat banyak aktor, penyanyi, musisi datang dari Irlandia, dan mereka secara tidak langsung juga menjadi duta besar Irlandia. Oke, setelah penjelasan dari Ibu Duta Besar Olivia Leslie, kita akan mendengarkan penjelasan presentasi dari Bapak Jack Fernandes mengenai dunia pendidikan tinggi. Ini yang mungkin bisa memberikan inspirasi dan menggugah teman-teman yang berminat untuk kuliah di Eropa, bahwa Irlandia juga memiliki pendidikan tinggi, universitas, kampus-kampus yang baik sekali untuk menjadi tempat melanjutkan pendidikan tingkat magister hingga doktoral. The next presentation will be delivered by Mr. Jack Fernandes, and he is going to present the higher education in Ireland. So, Mr. Jack Fernandes, are you going to play the slideshow?
I'll try to share the screen and hopefully if it works. Hold on. Yes, can you all see the screen? Yes, thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank Honduras for inviting us. I would like to thank Mr. Muhammad Hasanuddin, Director Professor Suharyadi, and Mr. Toto for inviting me and the ambassador for today's talk show with Honduras, with all the participants. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Jack Fernandez, currently working as consular officer and visa officer for the embassy, for Irish Embassy, and I've been working since 2017 until now. And I cover the consular section, which covers visa processing, passports, and engaging with Irish communities here, which requires consular assistance. So in today's presentation, it will be short presentations to get an idea for studying Ireland. So let me start with the presentation. So for Ireland, it's currently looking for an increase in students to come to Ireland, and it's been an increase over 5 years, about 20%. increase in students. So to give you an idea, we've been processing about 50 to 60 students in the last 2 years. And most of them are different students who apply themselves, or some of them are from exchange programs with universities. And study in Ireland, it's being promoted and are being promoted through our team and through Education in Ireland, which is a state agency under Enterprise Ireland, which the hub is in Singapore, but it's currently creating awareness of the study brand in Ireland, in all Southeast Asia. And we are hoping as well to have a cooperation between higher education institutions. So we're hoping that Untitled as well can have and cooperation with another higher education institution in Ireland. As an embassy, we're also well supporting these applications from international students. So we are processing all of these applications that are coming from students who would like to apply to Ireland. So there's a couple of reasons why you should study in Ireland. The first one, Ireland, it's well-known. It's had a high reputation for its high-quality educations, and it's built on a solid foundation of commitment of excellence. And it is also internationally renowned for its academic quality. Ireland as well has 34 higher education institutions in Ireland and offer an extensive range of 5,000 programs linked to internationally recognized and fully assured qualifications. International students can also choose to meet their educational needs in highly respected schools. International students can also choose to meet their educational needs in Ireland in highly respected schools, centers of scientific technology excellence, as well as renowned language and humanities faculties. So Ireland has a safe environment. It is the most friendly country according to the Lonely Planet in 2010. It ranks 13th place for the most peaceful place on Earth, according to the Global Peace Index in 2013. And the top 10 for its Better Life Index of according to OECD in 2013. So all the students who are coming from Indonesia who would like to study there, you will be safe and you will feel as safety environment and a homey experience while you will be studying in Ireland. As it has previously mentioned before by the ambassador, Ireland has the main language spoken there, it's English. Although there's Ireland has its own language, which is Galga. That English is the universal spoken language in Ireland, and so the students coming to Ireland won't have any issues as the education will be done with English language. As now Ireland is the only and current only country in Europe with English speaking country. There's a couple of reasons as well why students should come to Ireland to study. Ireland is well known for its animals and dairy products. So it's well known for exporting dairy products, and it is well known for its agricultural industry. As well, there's some other sectors, which is immunology and technology and other scientific areas which are well known in in Ireland. So just to give you an idea, there's been a couple of agreements and cooperation between universities in Indonesia with Ireland, specifically working in research areas and renewable technology as well. It's the main topic that are currently being, we are working together in that area. Also, Ireland is well known for a lot of European hub, are a lot of international companies, and most of them are IT technologies companies. And you already know it's by its name, that's Google, Facebook, IBM, Apple. But as well, it's known for some pharmacy companies like GSK and other dairy products companies. So all these international companies have their hub in Ireland for Europe. As for students who are coming to Ireland, the intake role, it starts in September. So those who would like to study in Ireland, the education program, it starts in September for its first semester. And there's a good study scheme in Ireland which allows students to work part-time for 24 hours a week and 40 hours during summer holidays. And the good thing is once the students have finished their graduate or studies, they can stay for 12 months for those who just completed their undergraduate program. And for postgraduate students can stay for 24 months to work in Ireland. So during this period, they don't require an employment or visa, or working visa. They don't require any employment permits during this time. And they can work part-time during this time while waiting to get a professional employment. And before that, I would like to inform you that currently there's around 200 to 300 students in Ireland studying. And we also have an alumni organization, PPI, which is active and it's been helpful for all Indonesian students coming to Ireland to join PPI, and PPI will be helpful to Indonesian students to have a community there within Indonesians. So if you have any further, if you need further information for any agreement or cooperation between your university with higher education institutions in Ireland, you can contact for Access Education in Ireland, and you can contact us as well for further information for studying in Ireland. So I think that's the end of my presentation. It's not that much, but hopefully it will help you to get an idea studying in Ireland.
Pak Todo, suara di-unmute dulu Pak Todo.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. What a lovely presentation about higher education in Ireland. Teman-teman mahasiswa, rekan-rekan akademik dari Undira dan juga dari luar Undira. Jadi kita tadi sudah mendapatkan penjelasan mengenai pendidikan tinggi di Irlandia, bidang ilmu yang sedang menanjak di Irlandia saat ini. Mereka sudah menguasai di teknologi nano, teknologi robotik, komputer, tentu saja industri pangan. Irlandia tidak kalah dari negara-negara Eropa lainnya dalam hal teknologi pangan. Saya pernah bertemu dengan dosen dari Universitas Pajajaran, dan dia bercerita bahwa Universitas Pajajaran melakukan kerjasama dengan salah satu universitas di Irlandia dalam bidang teknologi pangan untuk pendidikan magister atau doktoral. Dia sendiri juga alumni dari salah satu universitas. Saya lupa namanya, tapi dari Irlandia. Jadi buat teman-teman mahasiswa yang punya cita-cita untuk kuliah di Eropa, nah Irlandia ini bisa menjadi salah satu pilihan dan tidak kalah dari negara-negara Eropa lainnya. Dan jangan takut kesepian di Irlandia, sebab di Irlandia juga ada perhimpunan pelajar Indonesia. Jadi buat teman-teman yang mau kuliah S2, S3 di Irlandia, banyak teman-teman dari Indonesia. Jadi kalau kangen makan nasi goreng atau tempe, bisa ngobrol sama teman-teman dari Perhimpunan Pelajar Indonesia cabang Irlandia. So, Mr. Fernandes, I have a question about climate in Ireland. As you know, that Indonesian people are tropical people. So, what do you think? What should we do when we have to adjust ourselves with the climate of Ireland? I mean, should we wear any thicker clothes during winter?
So to be honest, I've just been once to Ireland, and it was on summer, so I have no experience of how it's cold in Ireland. But for the students who have come to Ireland, it can get cold. Hoping the ambassador can correct me if I'm wrong. It can get cold as 10 to 8 degrees. But for students who come to Ireland, you don't have to always wear a jacket, but it can get as warm as 25 to 26 degrees. And it's quite constantly rainy and has showers, and so a jacket will be suitable for students just to avoid the rains while they're studying in Ireland.
Yes, that's right, Jack. It can be cold, but we're very lucky. It's not cold like it is in other parts of Europe. For example, we don't have a lot of snow. So maybe every 2 or 3 years there might be some snow, but it's not, I promise it's not too cold. And the food that we eat is designed to keep you warm. So nice soup and hearty meals to keep people warm. And I think most Indonesians who studied there that I have met have enjoyed it. They buy a big coat. That's the that's the lesson. But yes, it's not as cold as the rest of Europe, so we are lucky in that.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador, for the explanation. Jadi teman-teman mahasiswa yang punya rencana untuk kuliah di Irlandia, tadi Ibu Duta Besar sudah menjelaskan bahwa iklim di Irlandia tidak se-ekstrim negara-negara Eropa lainnya. Tidak banyak salju pada musim dingin, jadi tidak usah khawatir walaupun kita yang dari tropis ini tidak terlalu tersiksa ketika tinggal di Irlandia. Dan juga tadi yang Pak Fernandes sudah jelaskan, bagi alumni Universitas Irlandia bisa bekerja full time ya. Jadi setelah lulus bisa bekerja full time di Irlandia. Untuk yang lulus dari program S2 bisa kerja full time selama 12 bulan, dan yang lulus program S3 bisa kerja full time selama 2 tahun. Jadi bagus sekali nih untuk sesudah kuliah lulus bisa menimba pengalaman kerja dulu di Irlandia, belajar sesuatu di sana, nantinya ketika pulang ke Indonesia kita bisa, teman-teman bisa mengkontribusikan dalam pengembangan negara ini. Baik, kita buka sesi tanya jawab sekitar 10 menit karena waktu sudah jam 11. Dari teman-teman partisipan yang hadir hari ini, apakah ada yang ingin bertanya? Saya persilakan.
Shall I start, Pak Todo, with my question to Madam Olivia?
Of course, Mr. Hassan. Yes.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you very much to Madam Olivia and also Mr. Jack Fernandes for the opportunity of today to hear your presentation. Actually, I would like to tell you that I've been a few times visiting UK, and the last time when I visited UK, it was 2018, and at that time I really wanted to go to your country. But unfortunately, the time is limited for me to extend my stay there. So I returned back to Jakarta. And then since my daughter and also my son-in-law also was studying in UK, in Leeds and also in Sheffield. So I planned actually last year, 2020, to go there. And also I've been including already, your country is my target to go for my vacation. But unfortunately, since COVID came to us, so all the plan was canceled. But hearing your presentation of today, really, if I could express my feeling, I cannot wait to go to your country as soon as possible. Really, I've been studying about what you call it, about the target of the place that I can visit in your country already. So, Madam Olivia, I really thank you so much for your presentation of today, and also Mr. Jack. So today, I know that I could come there, not only visiting the view and also the target for the sightseeing, but also many things that I could find from your country. As I learned today, I was surprised that you have less than 5 million peoples in your country, but you have achieved so many things that influence the world. Not only your country, but you have influenced the world by having such achievement. So that's why when I heard and I learned from Mr. Jack that there are so many opportunities to study in your country, I said to myself that today, next August, I'll be 63. And then I talked to myself, I was still so young, maybe I will put your country is my target of the place that I want to study there. Really, Madam. I think, Pak Todo, I thank you so much that you have initiated to have this webinar. And hopefully we could arrange not only having a meeting by virtual like this, but I think we have spare our time that maybe I myself with Professor, with Director of Undira and Pak Todo could visit your office so we can talk more detailedly about our program. I think that's all, Madam Olivia. I really appreciate your presentation with Mr. Jack Fernandez. And I hope to see you not only in Jakarta, but to see you in your country, in Ireland. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pak. Yes, and we would very much welcome you to Ireland, and I really hope that people can start traveling again. Yeah. And we've been very lucky in that the Indonesian students, for example, PhD, masters, etc., who've gone to Ireland this year have been able to travel. Yeah. But it's tougher for them this year, I think, because normally if you get to go to Ireland, you get the full experience, the culture, the music, going to see places, but there are so many restrictions at the moment. So I have great respect for the Indonesian students in Ireland this year because they're working very hard and we hope that a lot of them will stay behind for 12 months and work, as Jack had mentioned as well. And I spotted a question in the chat there from Didik Susanto about the minimum wage in Ireland, and I thought I'll take the opportunity to answer it. The minimum wage is €10.20 per hour, just in case that's helpful to Didik. But yes, please, we would welcome the opportunity to talk to the university as well, of course, about cooperation together with my colleague Miranda from Education in Ireland and Jack too. And a lot of our universities have good connections here as well. I heard mention of Universitas Padjadjaran. We also have good connections with Universitas Indonesia, with the University in Padang, with various different universities, and it's a pleasure to make those connections, particularly to connect academics together, because the embassy is just the embassy, but you guys, you like to connect with people working in the same business. So always happy to meet and to facilitate that. And I hope you can come to Ireland soon too. Come in the summer would be my recommendation. Yeah, musim panas. Tidak panas.
I think we should motivate and also encourage our people to study there. Especially, I will encourage my daughter to continue study for the PhD program in your country.
Yeah, and I mean, great access to the European market as well if she studies in Ireland. I promise it's a good experience. But Indonesians always enjoy it because I think culturally we're quite similar. You know, we're a small country. Community is important. Family is very important. So we recognize a lot of things in each other.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, Madam Ambassador, there is a question from one of the attendants here. Esti Utami, apakah hadir? Saya persilakan Esti Utami untuk mengajukan pertanyaan dalam bahasa Inggris tentunya. Ya, Esti Utami, silakan. Halo.
If not, there's a question also from Welasi Hombing.
Ya, ini dari Johan Ali. Johan Ali, apakah sudah ini?
Kesatuan Republik Indonesia. Itulah
Johan Ali. Halo, tadi mau mengajukan pertanyaannya.
If not, you can deliver the question by reading the question on the chart, Pak Todo.
Oh, oke. Okay. Satu lagi nih, ada Ayu. Ayu, silakan mengajukan pertanyaan di sini. Oke, saya akan bacakan, Madam Ambassador.
Good morning.
Oh, Ayu, oke, ya. You can pose your question now.
Good morning.
Yes, Ayu.
Good morning, Ambassador Olivia Leslie and Counselor Officer Mr. Jack Fernandez. My name is Igusti Ayu Atmiani, or just call me Ayu for short. I'm in my second year at the Nusantara University, taking English literature as my major, and Pak Todo and Bu Irma here are my lecturers, so I'll try my best not to embarrass them with my questions.
Don't worry.
Thank you for the lovely presentation and insights into Ireland society, culture, education, and giving us assurance that Ireland is more than just Bono, Westlife, and Pierce Brosnan. And I also like to say happy belated International Women's Day to Miss Olivia, and happy St. Patrick's Day to the both of you. So I have two questions that I would like to direct to each of you. Miss Olivia. My question is, hello?
Yes,
Ma'am?
can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, Miss Olivia. In light of the International Women's Day, do you think that societies are better off when women are more politically and economically empowered than men? Or do you think that it's better when women and men have equal power in society? That question goes to Ms. Olivia. And I have one question for Mr. Jack Fernandez. So I understand that you are the Consular Officer of the Ireland Embassy, sir. So, Mr. Jack Fernandez, in your role as a consular officer, have you ever done things for the sake of generating income for your consular section, but you actually knew that it will not benefiting the visa applicants? For example, you knew in advance that this particular person visa application, for example, from Indonesia, is going to be rejected due to some reason, but you're still taking the visa fee anyway. So just at the end of the day, your section will bring huge amount of money for Ireland Embassy, and you will get credit for that. Thank you. I'm waiting for the answers.
I'll go first. Jack, you can follow on with the answer to the second question. A very interesting question about equality. What do I think? I'm going to say that essentially, when women are involved in political, economic decision making, the outcomes are always better. When women have an equal voice in conflict resolution, the outcomes are more sustainable and conflicts tend to be resolved more effectively. So my view is that without the equal participation of women, and occasionally equal means greater participation of women, it is very difficult to solve political, economic, and social issues. And because it's proven that essentially the participation of women improves outcomes, it would seem to me counterproductive to prevent the participation of women at an equal level. And also, I would add the participation of minorities and those who, those who have been traditionally discriminated against as well, which is a key issue. The participation of all stakeholders and all voices is hugely important. So I hope that answers your question, Ayu. And International Women's Day is a very important day to mark that, but it's also something that we should think about every day. Do we have enough female representation at every level of our organizations? So, I mean, I'll pass on to Jack now to answer the question about visas. I'm sure he'll give a more comprehensive answer, but just to say that there is no charge for Indonesians for a visa, so the scenario is probably not possible. Here. But I will let Jack answer that question.
Yes. For visas, it's exempt from early payment. So Indonesian citizens who wish to apply for a visa are not charged for any payments. As for visa processing itself, I have to fully check and price the visa applications for that it meets all the requirements necessary for the visa itself. And during that process, just some validation process that we have to do for the documents. So it is important that the applicants submit evidence of and original documents for the visa processing. And each case is different from one applicant to another, and when the visa application is incomplete, it's not directly necessarily has to be rejected. But in case where we face an application where the applicant submits false documents, or then that's a big no, and that will be automatically refused and rejected for approval. Again, we came with different cases for visa applications. Some visa applications can require more strict checking than the others. And again, it all depends on the documents that they submit. As long as it all meet the requirements for the visa processing and it's all valid, then it's good for to approve the visa application. And yeah, I hope this answer your question, Ayu.
Ya, bagaimana Ayu? Apakah pertanyaanmu sudah terjawab? Halo Ayu, pertanyaannya sudah terjawab? Sudah memuaskan?
Well, actually, no. I still have many questions, but I realized that this timing is not enough. So, to Miss Olivia, I would like to know more where your stand of view for equality, I mean gender equality. But I realized that the time is not enough. So, both of you have answered my question. I would like to say thank you. Any further question? If you leave me a contact, I will bug you with questions. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Ayu, for the question. They were great questions. Okay, now I'm going to invite. Saya akan mengundang Muhammad Fauzan Arman. Halo, Muhammad Fauzan, apakah sudah siap dengan pertanyaannya? Halo, Arman Fauzan. Halo?
Ya, Pak.
Ya.
Sudah, Pak.
Ya, silakan mengajukan pertanyaan kepada Ibu Duta Besar atau Pak Jack dalam bahasa Inggris.
Ya. Thank you for presentation for Madam Olivia and Mr. Jack. Any question for I have any question for you. I want to ask the government declare for university graduate from both Ireland or from the I said spoke to the in Ireland a specific period, for example, 2 months or 2 years. Exactly.
Mas Arman, kalau boleh saya bantu, pertanyaan dalam
Oh,
bahasa
boleh,
Indonesia.
Boleh. Ini saya mau nanya soal berarti secara langsung pemerintah di sana mendukung para lulusannya untuk bekerja dahulu baik dari Irlandia atau dari luar Irlandia untuk bekerja dalam waktu semisal contoh 12 bulan atau 2 tahun di sana berarti ya Pak?
Oh, oke. Baik. Saya akan teruskan kepada Ibu Duta Besar. So, Madam Ambassador, we have a question from Mr. Arman. He asks, perhaps he just wants confirmation that every alumni of Irish University are allowed to work full time for a year or 2 years.
Yes, that's right. When you finish your undergraduate degree or a master's degree, you are entitled to remain in Ireland and work for 12 months full time. You can also work part time while you're studying as well. That's also possible. But yes, that stay back program is there for those who have a job, offer.
So, is there any special requirement that a foreigner has to comply with? I mean, is there any kind of document or proof that says that they're alumni graduates from Irish University?
So I think their immigration status is essentially done by the immigration authorities in Ireland will then extend their visa and give them the special working visa for that year, and that will be given to them when they produce obviously the evidence of graduation. Probably not graduation because that takes part a few months later, but finishing university and then obviously their job offer as well.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Ambassador. Jadi Mas Arman itu tadi jawaban dari Ibu Duta Besar bahwa setiap alumni ya harus alumni ya. Alumni itu pengertiannya yang sudah lulus, sudah menyelesaikan kuliahnya di Irlandia. Itu berhak untuk bekerja full time atau part time selama setahun atau 2 tahun. Tapi syaratnya itu harus sudah punya pekerjaan gitu. Jadi bukan berarti kalau sudah lulus nyari kerja berbulan-bulan terus visanya udah lewat, nggak bisa begitu. Jadi harus sudah punya pekerjaan dulu, jadi baru bisa apply untuk untuk bisa setahun atau 2 tahun bekerja di Irlandia. Ya, jadi semoga itu sudah menjawab pertanyaan dari Mas Arman ya. Okay, so well, Madam Ambassador and Mr. Jack, is it possible if we have another question from the attendants?
Actually, there are some questions, Pak Todo, from the participants. They have written the questions on the list.
Oh, all right. Oh yeah, there's a question here from one of our students asking about scholarship. Is there, for Indonesian students who are interested to study in Ireland, is there any scholarship program offered to Indonesian students?
So there are a number of universities have specific scholarships. So some universities have scholarships for students only from Indonesia and Malaysia, for example. But generally speaking, universities have a number of scholarships for international students, and Indonesians can apply for them. They can also apply for something called Government of Ireland scholarships, which is the Irish government scholarship scheme. And we have a couple of Indonesians in Ireland on those scholarships as well. And those are mostly for PhD and postgraduate work. But this year, I know that quite a few of the students that went to Ireland were in receipt of partial scholarships from universities as well. So there are also financial incentives. And if people would like to know about the scholarship system, they can get in touch with the embassy, and we'll put you in touch with Miranda Hock from Education in Ireland, who's the local education rep here, who is familiar with all of the different scholarship schemes that exist.
Oke, ya, jadi itu jawabannya. Ada program beasiswa dari universitas-universitas Irlandia yang ditawarkan kepada mahasiswa-mahasiswa Indonesia yang ingin melanjutkan pendidikan S1, S2, S3 di Irlandia. Dan teman-teman dipersilakan untuk menghubungi Kedubes Irlandia atau Study in Ireland. Itu kontaknya ada di Instagram. Jadi teman-teman bisa DM, direct message dengan Kedubes Irlandia atau Study in Ireland di Instagram. Okay, and there's a question, and this is quite academic from one of the teacher at Undira, Miss Sulistianing Tias. Okay, Miss Sulis, I think you are one of the panelists here. Ibu Sulis bisa langsung mengajukan pertanyaan. Halo, Ibu Tias.
And Madam Olivia Leslie.
Yeah, hello, Ibu Tias.
Okay, thank you for the time, Pak Todo. Okay, I want to ask, so I think when someone mentions the word Ireland, what comes to my mind is lycees, Arabic, and also, what is it, Dubliners, for example. Yes, of course, you can see that I am actually a fan of James Joyce. So I wonder, maybe Madam Olivia, if the reading book club of lycees is still available in Ireland. Because I have once heard about this book reading club in Ireland. Well, I think that's my question. Thank you, Pak Todo.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And what a good question, Ibu. Yes, absolutely. Ulysses particularly. So there's one day in June the 16th, known as Bloomsday, when all around the world there are celebrations of James Joyce and of Ulysses in particular. So there are very active clubs. For example, it's interestingly very big in China as well, and people dress up as characters from the novel, and they have like tea parties and things. So it is still a very big, it's still a very big part of our cultural calendar. And I'm very pleased that we have found through you a Joyce scholar in Indonesia, because for next Bloomsday, which is quite soon in June, I would hope we could put you in contact with some of the organizations that organize Bloomsday. So yes, it is still a big thing in Ireland. 16th of June, I hope I've got the day right, but Bloomsday it's known as. So please, delighted to hear that you're interested in it, and there is still very popular clubs in Ireland, organizations, literature, and including in the region, people do events. There was an event in Singapore for the day last year, for example.
Okay. Wow, that's very interesting. I hope I can join one of the book clubs someday, maybe. Thank you, Madam.
There's one of my students here, Sugianti. She has a question about living in Ireland. Halo Yanti, apakah kamu sudah mendengar? Jika ingin mengajukan pertanyaan, silakan. Halo Yanti.
Yes, sir.
Silakan langsung saja ajukan pertanyaan.
Okay, wait a minute. I want to ask a question. Miss, are people there very welcome to...
Maaf Yanti, tadi terputus audionya.
Yes, sir. Can I ask now?
Yes, sure. Silakan Yanti, ajukan saja.
Mungkin masalah di audionya Pak Todo. Pertanyaannya ada di list, bisa dibacakan.
Okay, so Madam Ambassador, I'm just gonna read her question. She asks if Ireland, whether Irish are welcome to newcomers.
Good question. Good question. Yes, would be obviously my answer. But I would say that essentially, you know, Ireland's quite a small country, and we're very family is very important to us. So we understand what it's like when somebody is far away from home. So generally speaking, we would be, I would say it's a good welcome. And I think the PPI, the Students Association in Ireland, would say that they have had a good welcome there. So many Irish people live outside Ireland. We know what it's like to go to a different country. So yes, we would be very happy to see more Indonesians come to Ireland and bring a little bit of your you know, good fun, the music, the good culture. Bring some of that and share it with us. We'd be very happy to welcome people. And also lots of international students. I wanted to add that too. So, you know, we're very used to dealing with people from abroad. So for many years, for example, there's a lot of Malaysian students in Ireland. So, you know, there's some cultural similarities that mean that, you know, it's not unusual, for example, for us to understand about Southeast Asia. We have some understanding of it and knowledge of it. And also we're a very pluralist society. So, you know, there are there's opportunity, particularly, for example, for people who are Muslims. There's mosques, there's halal food. You know, it's not we're not a monoculture. We understand the importance of providing for people from different cultures and religions.
Yeah, so there's the answer, Yanti. Jadi jika ingin kuliah di Irlandia, jangan khawatir. Orang-orang Irlandia, masyarakat Irlandia sangat terbuka dengan mahasiswa-mahasiswa asing, jadi tidak usah cemas. Untuk yang beragama, untuk Muslim sudah banyak juga restoran halal, ya. Jadi untuk tempat ibadah ada juga masjid-masjid di Irlandia, ya. Dan ya tinggal ini aja kontak-kontak dengan Perhimpunan Pelajar Indonesia cabang Irlandia. Jadi tidak sulit untuk melepas rindu dengan kampung halaman apabila kuliah di Irlandia. Well, ada lagi pertanyaan dari teman-teman yang hadir di sini. Oh, so there's a question, but I don't know the name of the person here. But the question is there any night classes in Ireland?
Yes, that's very common. So if you're in Ireland for work or for other study, it's quite common for people to do classes at night as well, just to study part-time as well. That's also possible. People sometimes do masters over two or 3 years. Yes, so yes, that is possible. And I spotted another question as well about the economic conditions during the pandemic. And I wanted to just say as well that particularly for students, but also for people working in Ireland, the government put a huge amount of effort into ensuring that people had enough money to survive during the pandemic. Just like here in Indonesia, you know, the government took on extra debt to make sure that that nobody went, you know, without. Everyone was able to pay rent, and students were able to pay rent and buy food, etc. Because a lot of people, their jobs were suspended during the pandemic. Although students quite often work in shops and in coffee shops, etc., which were open. So, as frontline workers, they continued to receive their wages as well. And a lot of university, just like with you, was online too. So a difficult time for everyone, but I feel that people were supported quite well.
Ya, jadi untuk yang tadi Ella ya kalau nggak salah saya baca namanya Ella. Jadi ada kelas malam di Irlandia untuk mereka yang bekerja sambil kuliah. Ya, jadi kalau misalnya kerjanya kebetulan di siang hari, kuliahnya malam hari. Jadi tidak jauh berbeda dengan di Indonesia. Nah, yang tadi pertanyaan dari Alvin ya mengenai kondisi ekonomi ya sudah dijawab tadi. Memang secara global semua terkena dampaknya ya, tapi di pemerintah Irlandia masih bisa memberikan subsidi bagi masyarakat. Ya, jadi orang-orang masih bisa tetap bekerja, mahasiswa masih bisa melanjutkan perkuliahannya. Oke. So,
ada question from Fadilah Nur Afifah, Pak Todo.
Fadilah. Bentar saya cari.
At 11:19 a.m.
Oh, let's have a look. 11:19.
Oh. So there's a question, Madam Ambassador, from Fadila. She wants to know there is similarities and differences between education system in Ireland and in Indonesia.
Yes, this is an interesting question. So I would say in the 1950s, the Irish government made the decision to put a huge focus on education for children from the ages of 4 until 18. So we have very, very high levels of people going all the way through school and then progressing to third level or to training for a skilled profession. So I think this is an interesting question. We have invested hugely in our education system. We also work in the third level, for example, we work with companies, our technology campuses at universities to integrate innovation and education at third level. But there's a huge focus on the education of children between the ages of 5 and 18. And I think in some ways there is a focus on getting smaller class sizes, all of these issues which have really helped us have one of the most educated workforces in the world. It's a huge challenge, education for you here in Indonesia, because there's simply children from one end of the archipelago to the other with different resources. And I know that the Ministry of Education and Culture here has been working so hard from before the pandemic to change the curriculum, to make it more flexible and to help more people progress to skilled professions and to third level as well. So, some of our universities have been working with, one of our universities in particular has been working with professors and teachers from a number of universities in Indonesia to sort of help them work on pedagogy in general and building education systems too. But it is a big challenge for Indonesia. There are a lot of kids here. You're a very young society, but I would say that what has worked for Ireland has been this, since 1950, a huge investment in making sure that children progress the whole way through school, that literacy and numeracy are at the heart of education. So that is the key. Third level education, it's investment from companies, from the private sector, from the government, that matters. But really, when kids are small, that's hugely critical too. So that is a very interesting question. And of course, I would always say, Ireland is a small country, and in some ways, and we're a member of the EU, these are all big benefits for us and for our education system. So it's hard to necessarily make the full comparison, but yes, we have been lucky and we continue to invest.
Ya, jadi itu Fadilah jawabannya. Jadi secara umum tidak ada perbedaan yang antara pendidikan di Indonesia dan di Irlandia. Jadi kedua pemerintah Irlandia sangat memperhatikan sekali pendidikan dasar, sehingga banyak di resource yang dituangkan pada pendidikan tingkat SD, SMP, SMA. Ya, mungkin perbedaannya seperti yang tadi saya sempat tanyakan ke Ibu Duta Besar dalam hal seni ya, seni desain itu pemerintah ada semacam penekanan khusus, dan itu yang kemudian membuat banyak tokoh-tokoh berpengaruh dari Irlandia itu di bidang musik, teater, kemudian juga desain. Ya, mungkin itu yang kalaupun ada perbedaannya. Well, looks like there is one person, Madam Ambassador, who has been posting the same question 3 times, and it looks like he is curious about conflict between Ireland and Britain. He's still curious. What is the current situation about? Is there still any conflict, or well, I'll allow you to answer that.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Patodo. Yes, and thank you to Baitia for the question. I saw it a couple of times there. So let me answer very clearly. So as I explained during our discussion, the island of Ireland is a shared island between Ireland, the country I am from, and then in the northeast 6 counties, which are still part of the United Kingdom. This has been the subject of particularly difficult conflict between the early 70s and the late 1990s. There is no conflict there at the moment. Essentially, it is in a post-conflict situation. We have an excellent relationship with the British government. There is devolved government in Northern Ireland, so essentially they do an awful lot of governance themselves. So yes, it is. I mean, it remains the case that there are an awful lot of people in Northern Ireland and in Ireland who would wish for a united Ireland, and this is our government policy: is that you know, within the framework of all the peace agreements which were reached in Northern Ireland, the most notable of which, interestingly, is called the Good Friday Agreement, because it was agreed on Good Friday. So yesterday was the anniversary. We're coming up fairly close these days on 30 years, not too far off. You know, about less than 30 years ago, agreement was reached on a peace deal in Northern Ireland whereby the combatants gave up their arms. So essentially, we have an international treaty, and the EU is very involved in that as well, which secures the political future of Northern Ireland. So I would say that it is not accurate to describe it anymore as in conflict in Northern Ireland. And also I would add that Ireland and the UK have an extremely close relationship, a close people-to-people, political, economic relationship. They are our nearest neighbour. We share a land border and a sea border with them. So relationships between our two countries are excellent and have continued to be, despite the challenge, for example, of the UK leaving the European Union. So it has been a hugely positive development on our island in the last 40 years to see us move into this post-conflict period, whereby we have you know, a political situation in Northern Ireland with devolution and with communities having the rights that they deserve.
Pertanyaannya sudah terjawab ya. Jadi kondisi di konflik antara Irlandia dengan Inggris Raya sudah selesai ya. Dan dalam catatan sejarah ya, kalau tidak salah tahun 1998 sudah tercapai ke perjanjian damai di antara Irlandia dan Inggris Raya. Jadi sudah tidak ada konflik. Jadi sekarang Irlandia dengan Inggris bekerja sama. Dan Irlandia sekarang didefinisikan bukan hanya Republik Irlandia, tapi juga ada Irlandia Utara. Jadi semua sekarang memiliki komitmen untuk berkolaborasi, saling bekerja sama, saling membantu. Madam Ambassador, there is an interesting question from Yayu Wahyuni. She's wondering, what are the main occupation of Irish people? I mean, in what field, what kind of occupations that Irish people mostly do?
Yes, interesting question. We would have a lot of farmers. I think I mentioned earlier that there's 138,000 around farms in Ireland, but I think more than that, we would have a very significant amount of people working in financial and technological services. So, some of the biggest employers in Ireland are companies like Facebook, LinkedIn, Apple, Dell, Intel, medical device manufacturers as well, pharmaceutical companies. So a lot of people work in financial and IT services. A lot of people work in technology more generally, whether that be pharma technology, medical technology. We obviously, like a lot of European countries, we have a large public service. So a lot of people working in healthcare, in policing, like myself, as civil servants. So yeah, a mix. But I would say that a young person graduating from university, it would be not unlikely that they would end up working in IT or financial services.
Oke. Ya yuk. Jadi banyak dari masyarakat Irlandia bekerja di bidang pertanian, ya, karena memang banyak pertanian di sana. Juga kalau sekarang kaum mudanya banyak masuk ke sektor teknologi karena banyak perusahaan teknologi yang beroperasi di Irlandia, jadi banyak juga kaum mudanya yang bekerja sebagai programmer, web designer, atau hal-hal yang terkait dengan e-commerce. How about fishermen, madam? Are there many Irish people being fishermen?
Yes, and interestingly, there are quite a few Indonesians working on Irish fishing boats as well. They're one community that we have noticed during the pandemic, because there aren't any tourists going back and forth. We know who's going to Ireland because obviously we process their visas, and we do see people working on ships. So we have a lively fisheries industry. And it is nice that we have some Indonesians because of the expertise there is here. And I had seen a question about when will tourism open again on the chat box as well. I'm following the questions as best I can. And just to say that on tourism, it's tricky. I mean, essentially, I suspect, like every country, it will be 2022 before we can start welcoming people back, depending on how many people are vaccinated in Ireland and on the global situation. And I think it'll probably be the same in Indonesia.
Ya. Oke, jadi pertanyaan mengenai turisme sudah dijawab, dan kita juga dapat informasi baru, ternyata banyak juga orang Indonesia yang menjadi nelayan bekerja untuk perusahaan-perusahaan penangkapan ikan milik Irlandia, jadi banyak juga fishermen dari Indonesia. So, Madam Ambassador and Mr. Jack, do we still have time for question and answer session?
There is question actually from Saputra. Patodo.
I see the question from Marissa.
Yeah.
So I think I can take this last question. Of course, I see the question from Marissa. It's very interesting, Marissa. You're asking about discrimination against people from Asia because of the spread of COVID. Is this question? Yes. Yes. So that's actually a very interesting one, because in Ireland, I don't think, although we know that COVID, the first cases were identified in China, in Wuhan, there isn't a strong sense that it came necessarily from Asia, because for us, where COVID came from was Irish people traveling in Europe, in the UK. So I don't think there has been particular racism or bullying on the basis of COVID. Like all societies, there are issues with discrimination, and there are issues with racism, which the government takes a very strong position on combating. We have excellent legislation around protecting people from discrimination. So I do think it's an interesting question, because these are challenges every society faces, but I don't think it's been particularly difficult in Ireland. So thank you, Marissa, for that question.
Okay. Jadi teman-teman, seperti yang kita sudah dengar tadi, memang konflik antar masyarakat itu selalu terjadi ya di lingkungan masyarakat manapun ya. Namun tidak usah cemas ya. Sekali lagi, masyarakat Irlandia adalah masyarakat yang plural, terbuka. Jadi tidak usah ragu-ragu, tidak usah khawatir ya mengenai bagaimana nanti kalau tinggal, bekerja atau belajar di Irlandia. Irlandia salah satu negara yang plural, apalagi juga secara kultural banyak orang Irlandia bepergian ke luar negeri. Jadi orang Irlandia adalah negara yang sudah terbiasa dengan multikulturalisme. Oke, saya mohon maaf kepada teman-teman mahasiswa, Bapak Ibu dosen, sesi tanya jawab sudah berakhir. Jadi saya rasa kita sudah mendapatkan banyak pengetahuan yang sangat berharga sekali ya, sangat menarik bahwa Irlandia ini negara yang memberikan banyak peluang bagi dalam bidang ilmu pengetahuan dan juga dalam hal bisnis ya, juga buat peserta-peserta dari luar kampus yang mungkin dari kelompok bisnis yang ingin belajar lebih lanjut mengenai potensi bisnis di Irlandia, bisa menghubungi Kedutaan Besar Irlandia lewat langsung, lewat surat atau mungkin lewat Instagram. Juga ada untuk informasi mengenai belajar kuliah di Irlandia, ada akun Instagram Study in Ireland. Silakan menghubungi, berkirim pesan di sana untuk mendapatkan info lebih lanjut. So, Madam Ambassador and Mr. Jack, Mr. Fernandez, thank you very much. It has been a great session between us. So, I think I'm going to close the...
Pak Todo?
Oh yeah.
Before you close,
saya langsung menutup. Belum.
Okay, actually, Pak Todo, I think before we close our presentation of today, I have two questions actually that I'm so curious to get the answer from Madam Olivia or from Mr. Jack. The first question that there are so many sectors that you are dealing with Indonesian government. So I would like to know which sector that you are most focusing on dealing with Indonesian government in order to increase or to improve the quality of our relationship. And then the second question is, I think you have been many years already in Indonesia with our cooperation. So what is your advice to our country, especially in the field of education? That's all, Pak Todo, from me to Madam Olivia or to Mr. Jack Fernandez. Thank you.
Wow, the second question is very difficult. You know, I think I'm always hesitate to give advice because I think Indonesia is an incredibly complex country. And, you know, it's a huge country and it's very complex and it's quite different to Ireland. So I would hesitate to give advice. But I would say on education, I think that the work that the ministries have been doing here, that the individual universities have been doing here to improve and to build and to internationalize, I would just say, please continue with this work because it is hugely important for your future that, you know, the 300 participants here, all of who are students, that they have the best possible launch to their career and to their life. So please continue with the excellent work to build the capacity in your universities. It's a challenge for every country. It's a challenge for Ireland. So I would say, you know, and to collaborate internationally as well, as I know a lot of universities do, you know, with Australia, with the US, with other places in Europe, and, you know, critically in the region as well. So I would, it's not so much advice, only just to say, you know, good work and keep it up. And then on the sector that we deal with most, we deal an awful lot with education, actually, and with the ministries here, with what was restricted before, with BARENG, with the Ministry of Education and Culture. We also deal quite a lot with the financial services area and with the Ministry of Finance, of course, and you know, trying to help Irish companies work here on things like fintech and other things like that. So we kind of work a little bit with everything, with every area. But I would say that the big growth areas for us here is probably financial technology, fintech, and then also agriculture. But that we'll continue to have a strong focus on links between universities on education and intergovernmental links on education as well. We have a formal agreement, a memorandum of understanding with the Indonesian government on third level education, and we're hoping to have one on secondary and primary education soon too. So with that, I mean, I know this is my last opportunity to speak, so if I could just thank you all very much, thank the university for inviting us, and on behalf of Jack as well, of course. And I want to particularly thank the students for the excellent questions, and for taking the time on a Saturday to engage with us. It really makes us very happy to know that there are people out there interested in our country, and please do contact Education in Ireland or the embassy should you wish to know any more as well. We're there to help. So thank you for the questions as well, Vice Rector. Very interesting and challenging for me.
Okay, thank you, Madam.
Oke, sesi tanya jawab sudah selesai dan saya pikir sesi presentasi juga sudah berakhir, dan saya akan menyerahkan kembali kepada Ibu Sekar dan Ibu Irma untuk melanjutkan.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak Todo Sibuya SPDM Hum yang telah memandu berjalannya sesi penyampaian materi.
Well, thank you Bapak Todo Sibuya SPDM Hum for guiding the talk session.
Saya ucapkan juga terima kasih kepada Madam Olivia Leslie dan Mr. Jack Fernandez selaku narasumber yang telah memberikan pengetahuan dan ilmu baru kepada seluruh peserta. Semoga apa yang telah disampaikan dapat bermanfaat bagi seluruh peserta ngobrol bareng online kali ini.
I also would like to thank Her Excellency Olivia Leslie and Mr. Jack Fernandez as the speakers today who have provided new knowledge and broadened our mind. Hopefully what has been delivered today can be useful for the audience of Ngobrol Bareng Online event.
Baik, selanjutnya kami persilahkan kepada Profesor Suharyadi untuk dapat memberikan sambutan penutup. Kepada Profesor Suharyadi kami persilahkan.
Saya
Next,
tidak beri penutup,
we would like okay.
Bagaimana, Prof?
We would like to invite Professor.
Tadi saya tangkap Profesor bilang bisa langsung lanjut saja, Bu Sekar.
Baik, siap. Baik, terima kasih, Prof. Terima kasih, Pak Todo. Baik, Bapak Ibu sekalian, sebelum berakhir, kami akan melakukan sesi foto bersama. Dimohon untuk seluruh narasumber dan moderator untuk dapat menggunakan kamera.
Sekar.
Ya, Pak.
Sebelum foto bersama, mungkin saya mewakili Prof saja untuk menyampaikan ucapan terima kasih kepada kedua narasumber kita.
Baik, silakan Bapak Hasan, kami persilakan.
High Excellency Madam Olivia Leslie as the Ambassador of Republic of Ireland for Indonesia, and also Mr. Jack Fernandez as the Consular Officer of the Ireland Embassy for Indonesia. I would like to take this opportunity to express my feelings by having the great opportunity to have your presentation, and also especially your cooperation with Undira for having this webinar. Actually, this webinar is a regular program that we provide, especially to increase the knowledge and experience for our students, also for the society. And by having the presentation and also explanation and answering from you from the questions that delivered by our students of today, on behalf of Undira, I would like to thank you and appreciate both of you so much by attending our program. And hopefully this first step of cooperation between your government, especially the embassy of Republic of Ireland for Indonesia in Jakarta, with University of Indira, could be the first step that could be followed by another steps of both of us. And once again, I would like to thank you so much, and also for our students for having this opportunity. Hopefully, we can create more program, and also hopefully next time there are some opportunities for our students to continue their study in your country. And hopefully when this pandemic is over, hopefully we can have more intensive meeting, Pak Todo, with Madam Olivia and also Pak Jack Fernandez. I think that's all from us. Once again, thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Bapak Hasan atas sambutan penutupnya. Baik, sebelum berakhir kami akan melakukan sesi foto bersama. Dimohon untuk seluruh narasumber dan moderator untuk dapat mengaktifkan videonya. Dimohon untuk saudari Eva untuk dapat membantu sesi dokumentasi.
Before the end of the session, we would like to do a photo session together. To all the speakers and moderators, please activate your camera. To Miss Eva, please help with documentation.
Smile.
Silakan saudari Eva. Eva masih di mute suaranya.
Okay, let me do it for Eva. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Smile. Cheers. Okay, thank you.
Terima kasih saudari Eva.
Thank you to Miss Eva. And
baik, terima kasih kepada seluruh peserta, narasumber, dan moderator yang telah mendukung acara ngobrol bareng online dengan tema perkenalan dengan Republik Irlandia terkait masyarakat, budaya, pemerintahan, dan pendidikan tinggi.
well, thank you to all participants, speakers, moderators who have supported the Ngobrol Bareng Online event with the theme Introduction to the Republic of Ireland, Society, Culture, Government, and Higher Education.
Thank you.
Semoga kita dapat bertemu kembali pada acara ngobrol bareng online maupun webinar selanjutnya, karena Universitas Dian Nusantara secara rutin menyelenggarakan kegiatan webinar setiap 1 bulan sekali. Dan kegiatan webinar maupun ngobrol bareng online yang telah berlangsung akan selalu kita upload pada YouTube channel kami, yaitu Universitas Dian Nusantara. Serta segala informasi kegiatan yang diselenggarakan Universitas Dian Nusantara akan kami publikasikan melalui website kami di www.undira.ac.id.
We hope we can meet again at the next Ngobrol Bareng Online event because Dian Nusantara University regularly organizes webinar activities every month, and the webinar activities that have been taking place will always be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Universitas Dian Nusantara. And all information of activities organized by Dian Nusantara University will be published through the website in www.undira.ac.id.
Saya mewakili Universitas Dian Nusantara mengucapkan terima kasih, serta mohon maaf jika terdapat kekurangan dari penyelenggaraan ngobrol bareng online hari ini. Tanpa mengurangi rasa hormat, acara ngobrol bareng online ini saya akhiri. Selamat siang. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
As the representative of Dian Nusantara University, I would like to say thank you and apologize if there are any inconveniences during the event. With all due respect, I would like to end this Ngobrol Bareng Online event. Good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih Mbak Saudin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Jack.
Thank you, Madam Olivia.
Thank you, Mr. Jack.
Terima
Terima kasih, Prof. Haryadi. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Pak Todo. Sukses.